Personally, for me, I enjoy films that can really create an experience for the viewer, not just mentally, but visually. I really enjoy a film that has tons of visuals, and of course a film with a great storyline that kind of blows you away. I love plot twists, and I really enjoy movies that make you think. Things that you don't normally see on a daily basis. I think movies are special because they create a whole nother world for you.
What makes a film unique for me is cinematography. It's very important. If the shots aren't well composed, or if they're not interesting, then I'm not interested in the movie. I think that's everything. And in my class, when I'm grading your guys' films, when I'm nominating the films that I like the most, full disclosure, I'm looking at composition. I think that's everything. And then the story. Can you tell a compelling story? Am I interested in the story? Am I interested in the characters? Do I actually care about what's going on? Is it boring and predictable, or does it treat me like a roller coaster? I want the exciting roller coaster ride. So those, cinematography and storytelling, that's what I'm interested in.
Oh, explosions and funny things. Listen.
My favorite film genre would probably have to be psychological thrillers.
Elaborate.
I really enjoy psychological thrillers because I feel that it gives you that element of suspense that a horror movie would or a scary film would. But it's more than just things popping out at you. It's definitely something that causes you to think ahead and try to guess what's happening or what's about to go on and who really is the killer. I really enjoy films that, again, can just get you thinking throughout the entire thing, and you're not just, oh yeah, I know who the killer is and I know how that's going to end and those people are going to fall in love and it's done and it's over. I definitely enjoy when it's something that you just don't expect.
Action and comedy are both, probably action more, because action has comedy.
My favorite film varies, I guess, depending on the day. I would say Fargo by the Coen brothers is up there. I cite Brazil by Terry Gilliam a lot, and The Shawshank Redemption, Groundhog Day, like all for different reasons, but I'm sure I've considered all of them my favorite movie on any day of the week. I would say Fargo more than any. Like, that's just, to me, that's just a perfect movie. If I was on a desert island and had access to a television and a DVD player and electricity and could only take one movie, I guess it would be Fargo.
My favorite film. Damn. I feel like this question is so difficult to answer because if we're focused on the genre that I've given you, I'm going to tell you that my favorite film would be the Saw series, which a lot of people are not fans of, and I can see why, but it's just the storyline gets me going every time, and I think that it's just enough amount of gore, it's just enough amount of thinking and enough plot twists that I enjoy it so much. I think it's a very, what's the word? I don't know if it would be considered a cult film. I guess it does because it's such a strange movie or series of movies, but I love it.
Probably Step Brothers, Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Name some films with some of the best soundtracks you've ever heard.
The ones that really, the first one that comes to mind is really random, I feel like. But I absolutely love the Tron soundtrack, the new Tron. I love that soundtrack, and I don't know if it's just because it's Daft Punk, but I love that soundtrack, and I could listen to that soundtrack without watching the movie over and over again, and I just see things. And I feel like that's what a good soundtrack should do, is make you see things and feel things. Another movie with a really good soundtrack. Drive definitely has a wonderful soundtrack. I think what Drive does with its soundtrack is really interesting because it takes place of a lot of dialogue, which I think is great. And a lot of movies make that choice. Well, the movies didn't make the choice. The directors did, obviously. But when it's able to really take place of it, I think it creates a whole different experience for the viewer.
The Guest, it sounds like Drive. It's kind of like cool. That sounds like a video game.
Oh, you know what's a good one is Dazed and Confused has a really good soundtrack with all just the 70s rock bands and things like that. Almost Famous, that's one of my favorite movies. That has an excellent soundtrack too, kind of that same early 70s, late 60s hard rock vibe. Yeah, those. That's what I kind of like. That classic rock, genre. You know. Yeah, those are the kind of movies that I like the music to. It was funny is I come from a divorced family, and neither my mom nor my dad care about movies at all, but both my stepmom and my stepdad do, and they were kind of the ones that got me into movies. My stepdad got me into the Marx Brothers when I was really little, and like, I mean, we're talking old Hollywood here, and I didn't hate it. You know, like I was like, no, I'm into this. You know, like these guys have been dead longer than I've been alive, and yet I just really got into them. My stepmom really got me into like horror films, and yeah, it's funny that my parents getting divorced allowed me to be introduced to these two people that I never would have met otherwise, that really kind of introduced me to movies and opened my life to movies. And my stepdad and I mean, we still, when we get together, we go to the movies all the time. We never take my mom. My dad does take me to movies, but he falls asleep. And then my stepmom, we just kind of watch movies at home whenever I'm there. But yeah, like their love for movies kind of got me interested. Yeah.
The first film I was ever exposed to. Well, if I had to say, the first time I was ever really exposed to some sort of film would be when I was, I want to say like 3 years old, and it was Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. My uncle, who lived with me at the time, was always watching MTV because MTV was really big. And Michael Jackson's Moonwalker was fairly new, so it was constantly on repeat on MTV. And I just remember, I think I was like I was so fascinated by the music, and again, visual, right? It's such a visual piece of work. That my mom had recorded it, so it was like on this VHS, and it was labeled Moonwalker, and I would watch it constantly over and over and over and over again, all throughout my life, even now. And I can officially say that I think Michael Jackson's Moonwalker plays such a huge role for me as an artist, it's just such a source of inspiration. But it's crazy to think that it's film, because I've never really thought of it in that way. Like the first time I've ever really been exposed to what film could be or what film is, because it's a series. Moonwalker is just a series of short films that Michael Jackson created for his music. And that's crazy, because it's exactly everything that I'm into, like the visual, the really weird out there, like the stories are so strange in that piece, and the music, wow, never really thought of that. A couple of my favorite directors, I can tell you right now, Quentin Tarantino, hands down, is one of my favorite directors. There's something about him, I think it's also his personality, that just really comes out in his films. I love his vision. I really enjoy the way he structures his films. The dialogue that gets put into his films, I think, is just amazing. The storylines, even if like it's the simplest storyline, he manages to somehow make it, for me personally, exciting. I love the gore in his films. I just think that he definitely makes a statement. He challenges his audience to appreciate other aspects of, I guess, villains and darker sides of life. And I mean, if we just look at all of his films, but I really enjoy Tarantino's work. I love the music he uses. I love his cinematography. The way he frames things, his shots are amazing. It's very stylistic, and you're watching a Tarantino film when you're watching a Tarantino film. I love that. He has signature work. Another director I really enjoy is Boz, and I think I really enjoy Moulin Rouge, and I really enjoy Romeo and Juliet, of course, the Leonardo DiCaprio version. For me, the thing that gets me with Boz films, it's so visually stimulating.
I forgot Quentin was a director. He's legit. Robert Rodriguez, he's dope. Michael Bay, pretty cool.
I mean, piggybacking on what I was saying about Fargo, I love the Coen brothers. Their movies are just, I don't know, they're phenomenal. I don't want to say they don't have a flawless catalog, but their movies are really good. I love Terry Gilliam because you have to kind of figure it out. He's not going to hold your hand and guide you to easy answers. After watching a Terry Gilliam film, you're going to end up with more questions than answers, and I like that. I like Kubrick for the same reasons, but I just find Gilliam's movies a little bit easier to digest, if that makes sense. I love David Fincher. I don't know, Fincher can do no wrong in my opinion as well. Gone Girl, Fight Club.
But usually I get attracted to specifically action and comedy movies, but even in those movies they have like little parts that it's like, damn.
I think in order for a film to really draw me in, it has to kind of, this is complicated. It has to present me with an established and like an identifiable world that I'm familiar with, but still far enough outside of my own reality to keep me interested. So there has to be something that I can identify with in order to capture my interest, but then be different enough from my own reality to make me feel like, oh, this is interesting. You know, this is a world that I want to stay in. And I think, I mean, getting back to my favorite directors, like I said, the Coen brothers and Terry Gilliam. I mean, like, those guys are, Gilliam more so. Gilliam is known for his elaborate sets and his location shooting. I'm sorry, edit that out. Gilliam is known for his elaborate sets and his you know, studio productions. He prides himself on that, much like, I guess, like Tim Burton would. Very expressionistic settings. And I like that. But there's still something familiar enough about these dreamlike settings that I can identify with. I mean, Brazil and Time Bandits is all about, you know, daydreaming and fantasy. And I can relate to that being, you know, somebody who spends a lot of time in his own head, and yet the whimsicalness of the settings just, you know, keep me interested. The same thing with the Coen brothers. Those movies are all very identifiable. There's something very Midwest about those movies, even though, you know, a lot of them don't take place necessarily in the Midwest. But because I'm from the Midwest, I identify with like that lifestyle, and yet there's something very Oz-like to a lot of their movies where it's just outside reality. You know, that's sort of, yeah. That's it.
What really captivates me about a film, and I guess this is about any piece of artwork, I always believe that a piece of art should be a full experience. I like to be like engulfed in whatever it is that I'm experiencing. I like my movie to be playing really loud on a big screen, surround sound. And I want to be like right there. I want to feel like the rest of the world does not exist for just 2 hours. I want to feel like that's where I am. I want to walk away from a movie and be sad like I'm leaving that world, and I can never go back until I watch it again, obviously. But I think that's the point of a film or any piece of artwork, is to take its audience and create an experience for the audience member, so that you're there. It's like you're getting to know these characters, these people. You're in the story, you're connected, you're right there with them. And I want all parts of me, I want to be like feeling it, whether it's like music wise, visually. I want to, you know, and I think it's like crazy because I think movies are going to get there at some point where like you can smell it and, you know, you're right there. I mean they're doing that stuff at Universal Studios now, you know. It's like they're putting you right in there. It's like 3D and you're right in the film, and it's like next thing you know you're going to be part of the film in the future at some point, I'm sure. But I think that's the point, is that you're supposed to be somewhere else, and you're supposed to create a relationship with the piece of work so that you can experience it on all levels, so that when you walk away from it, you're kind of just like, whoa, what just happened? Because you were there.